When I was 8 years old, I was in the grocery store with my mom and my younger brother. We were headed to the checkout line where they strategically place all of the impulse buys just as you're about to leave. You have your candy and your other junk food, your magazines, your little toys, and your baseball cards. My brother and I did everything we could to convince our mom that we needed something. Please, Mom. We were denied. So my mom starts putting food onto the conveyor belt. I look over at the rack of cards. I look over at my brother, and I start putting the cards into my pockets. Now here's the part that I'm not proud about. I never took any baseball cards, but my brother, without hesitation, he did. While he was taking them off the shelf and putting them into his pockets, I was taking them out of my pockets and putting them back on the shelf. So my mom paid, and we go out to the car. And as we're pulling out of the parking lot, he pulls the cards from his pockets. He's got a big smile, and he's so proud. We start giggling in the back seat. My mom turns around. She immediately saw what happened. And my mom does not play around, still doesn't to this day. She whips that car around. She pulls back into the parking space. She grabs his little hand, and she walks him into the store. And in the store, he has to return the cards. He has to apologize to all the store employees. And he learned his lesson. And oh, did he face the consequences. And meanwhile, I stood by, knowing I played a role. It was my idea to take the cards. And I stayed quiet. He told the truth. I didn't lie, but I didn't step forward. And that's the first time I can recall feeling it. This moment, this pause, when I knew what the right thing to do was, but I couldn't bring myself forward to own it. And I believe we face decisions just like this throughout our entire life. And how we respond to and learn from them is precisely what shapes it. Many of the biggest moments in our life, we spend years anticipating their arrival. Not because we know what they're going to look like, but we sense they're going to matter. Who we're going to spend our life with, if anyone. Whether we want kids or not, how many, where we're going to live, and the career we choose. And we come to see these moments in their full form, like they arrived to us at a finish line. But when we look back, we know that these weren't the beginnings. They didn't change our direction. They just revealed the path that we were already on. And that direction was set by dozens of small choices that we made along the way. The ones that don't announce when they're coming. They don't arrive with certainty. They don't wait until we're ready. They show up quietly, in ordinary moments, in conversations we almost have, in actions we almost take. And because they're not as dramatic as the big life decisions, we'll sometimes treat them as optional. We'll tell ourselves, when the timing's right, when things calm down. But clarity rarely comes first. What usually comes first is hesitation. It's not fear that stops us, but it's just enough doubt to make us delay. And in that delay, something subtle happens. We don't say no, we don't walk away, but we just stop one step short of ownership. That moment, that pause, that almost, it's a decision. Some would argue it's indecision, but indecision doesn't know yet. Almost does, and it pauses anyway. Because in that moment, we're not choosing between right and wrong. You're choosing between comfort and responsibility. And in that hesitation, we'll partially own it. We'll admit enough to feel honest, but not enough to change. And that's what makes an almost dangerous. It sounds reasonable. It sounds responsible. It allows you to feel self-aware, but we get to stay the same. But ownership is different. Ownership is not just saying, that's on me, I'm sorry. Ownership is saying, that's on me, and I'll carry the cost. And the cost is rarely massive, but it's always real. It could be discomfort, embarrassment, apologizing before you're ready, or doing the hard thing when no one's watching. But if you keep choosing comfort over responsibility, almost is no longer just a moment, it becomes our pattern. That day in the grocery store, I walked away relieved that I didn't get in trouble for taking cards. But I carried something else with me. The residue of my decision to choose comfort over responsibility. And over time, those choices add up. You almost speak up. You almost start. You almost take a risk. And in that moment, nothing explodes. Nothing fails loudly, but we just don't act. And if you're not careful, or if you're too careful, you don't live a life of failure, you live the story of delay. Hindsight doesn't just show us what we did wrong, it shows you what you postponed, the opportunities that you left on the shelf, the version of you that could be here today had you just started sooner. For years, I thought this grocery store moment was just a childhood lesson. It wasn't until later that I realized I was still practicing it, but at much higher stakes. Which brings me here today. Years ago, I wanted to open up a gym. Not just a place to work out, but one built around community and accountability. People getting stronger not only physically, but mentally and emotionally. A place to lead and to learn together. And I wanted to work with people that genuinely cared about where we live and making it a healthier and a better place. And I almost didn't do it. I had reasons. I didn't know if the timing was right. We were in the middle of a pandemic. What if nobody showed up? What if I failed my family? So I waited. I planned more. I refined my idea. I told myself that I was being responsible. But responsibility is just what I told myself because I wasn't ready to decide yet. And in that waiting, something almost happened. I almost didn't build my community that exists today. I almost didn't have the opportunity to meet the people that trusted in me before it was proven. I almost didn't create the space where people could discover their strength, not only physically, but in who they become. And I almost wouldn't be on this stage today, but saying yes to one idea opened up doors that I didn't know existed at the time. What changed? It wasn't confidence. It was ownership, practiced, not discovered. And I want to be clear about something. Ownership is not blind confidence. I didn't start a business because I knew it would work. I started it because I trusted myself to carry it if it didn't. That trust didn't come from how motivated or excited I was. It came from practice, from small decisions that I didn't walk away from conversations that I didn't avoid, from costs that I didn't outsource. It's not believing that everything will go right. It's just believing that you won't disappear when things go wrong. It's not a lack of confidence. It's a lack of trust in ourselves because we haven't been practicing ownership long enough. And that's why just knowing what to do isn't the problem. We all know we should eat better, move more, manage our stress. Yet we don't all do those things. So the question isn't how do we change, it's why don't we change? And I don't think the missing ingredient is motivation or discipline. It's ownership. It's not about being perfect. It's what you do the moment you realize you weren't perfect. That day in the grocery store, it didn't teach me to be flawless. It taught me the difference between admitting and owning. My brother owned his mistake and he carried his cost, and I didn't. And I think that's where a lot of us get stuck. We'll say, yeah, I should have. But if you're unwilling to carry the cost, then your intentions become an almost. Almost is when you know what the right thing to do is, but you choose not to carry the cost that come with those decisions. So this week, I want you to notice one almost. Not your whole life, not 10, just one. What is one conversation that you've been avoiding? One boundary that you haven't set? One step that you keep postponing? And when that hesitation comes up, instead of asking, am I ready? Ask yourself this instead. Am I willing to carry the cost? Because big change doesn't come from big declarations. It comes from the small moments when almost shows up and you choose not to disappear. When you're willing to carry the cost of your decisions, your life moves forward. Almost is a decision.